Now it's time for a sponsor perspective portion of our program. While I'm conducting this interview and these questions are really mine, the portion of this program shouldn't be considered editorial. With that, I'm pleased to welcome Chip Davis, who knows so much about these issues from the pharmaceutical side of it to distribution, President and CEO of the Healthcare Distribution Alliance. Chip, it's great to see you, my friend. Let me ask you, I think a lot of people get parts of this equation, they don't understand it all. It's a big set of issues. You move stuff. You move pharmaceutical and healthcare products to the communities, to the centers they're needed. And there are a lot of challenges in that. A lot of stuff has to stay cold. A lot of stuff has to get to places on time. So what's the health, give us the state of play when it comes to moving healthcare products in America. Are we in good shape or wobbly shape?
Yeah, Steve, thanks for having me today. The short answer is I think we are making a lot of progress. We can always get better. But I remember the last time that we talked in the fall, you asked me prior to the Pfizer product getting emergency use authorization, was the distribution sector going to be ready? And I think we have an answer to that now, and that's an emphatic yes. I think our members have, since the Pfizer and Moderna products were approved, really been focused on four core areas. Obviously, first and foremost, vaccine distribution, whether it's McKesson and the centralized distribution role they're playing on behalf of the federal government, or a number of our members partnering. You've talked a lot during this session about the important role that the states have and will continue to have. A number of our members are partnering with state public health departments, Cardinal Health in Ohio, Morrison-Dixon and Louisiana Drug in states like Louisiana are playing critical roles there because, quite frankly, these state health departments, especially given some of the resource challenges they've had, are looking to the expertise, the logistics expertise in the private sector. I think the other thing that's really, really important, you've talked a lot about it in this segment, is about med-surg supplies, PPE and the like. We have members who not only distribute that in addition to the vaccines and therapeutics, but also are manufacturers of it. So that's a key component of areas our members are focused on as well.
Chip, are there new challenges or other dimensions that we ought to be talking about or thinking about with the next phase of rollout?
Yeah, Steve, great question. I've thought about the moment in time that we're in, and even if you look over the last week or so, right, we've seen the percentage or the ratio, if you look at the CDC COVID tracker, of the number of vaccines distributed versus administered. We were running at about a 3-to-1 clip nationally. That number is now under 2-to-1. So we're making progress in the right ways. You've talked about both last mile and last inch, and there's obviously still a lot of work to be done there. I think equally important, though, we have to keep an eye on the future, right? There's the old saying that past performance is no guarantee of future success. And I think as we look at it, with 44 million doses distributed to date, with additional, as recently as yesterday, obviously, the president announced an additional 200 million doses secured, taking the number up to 600 million for just Pfizer and Moderna, potentially upwards of 900 million with other vaccines that have been referenced from the likes of Johnson & Johnson, possibly AstraZeneca coming online. That looks a lot different than 44 million. So what we're going to need to make sure of, and we've actually put out principles in support of this, is to make sure that as this administration, which I agree with Jay Timmons, has really come in and done a phenomenal job in the last week, and certainly all their advanced prep work has been reflected in that. But I think the environment is going to shift significantly in terms of more vaccines available, more doses of those already gaining authorized use available. And the reality is we're going to expand the number of providers administering vaccines, thankfully so. But mass vaccination sites, the onlines of pharmacies coming into play, whether they be the chains moving back into their chain pharmacies from the long-term care centers where they've been administering. And in particular importance, and you touched upon this a couple times today, in rural and underserved areas, the role of community and independent pharmacies is going to be absolutely vital. And our members have really, really strong, longstanding historical partnerships with those rural and community pharmacies who are going to be relying on distributors in their area of logistics expertise and administration to be able to help them ensure that they're getting the vaccines into people that live in those areas.
Let me ask you an out of left field question, Chip. I had Lena Wen, who's been a very thoughtful voice on CNN, Washington Post on this, And she said, we're not reaching high enough. You know, she gave a friendly critique of the Biden team and said, you know what, we're already doing a million things a day. We're at that level. We need to play at a higher aspiration level. She said, groups like yours, you're succeeding. You're getting the product distributed. If we were to reach a little bit higher, if we were to muscle up a little bit more, you know, you get material to distribution sites and then others get it in people's arms. I guess my question is, you know, what would you think is what do you think is more possible? Should we set the goals a little bit higher than we are now? Do you think your members could hit a higher goal than we're getting now to get more product to the distribution sites that we need to get to?
Well, I think everybody shares the objective, Steve, of getting America vaccinated as quickly as we possibly can in terms of the impact it's going to have on everything from public health to getting our economy back in shape. In terms of where our members are, I can assure you that from the time I started at HCA just about a year ago, the mindset within this membership has been to answer the call. Wherever it comes from, however large or small it may be, whether it's from an individual customer that distributors have or from as large an entity as the federal government or the state governments. And I can assure you that as an industry that connects over 180,000 healthcare providers, from healthcare systems, hospital systems, independent pharmacies, chain pharmacies, physician offices, and the like, to over 1,400 manufacturers, there is no other industry that has the infrastructure and the logistics built to be able to answer that call if, in fact, the administration says that they're going to raise the aspirational limits. And I can assure you our first outreach back into them is going to be, what more do you need of us? Because we stand ready to answer.
Chip, final question. And do your members need anything they're not getting to succeed?
Steve, great question. I think, I think one of the things we've learned through this in particularly was, and we had talked about this a little bit in the fall, was really making sure that there was the communication loop between the public and private sector, and then within the public sector between the federal government and the state government. I think we have seen just in the last week with the COVID response team at the White House, Jeff Zients, Tim Manning, and others, that you are actually seeing that feedback loop increase significantly. And as a result of that, I really hope that the states who have been saying they're not getting the level of not only communication, but resources and support, I think that's something that will ultimately be addressed. We certainly are making continuous outreach to our partners at the state level to say whatever logistical expertise we can provide, we will. But I think that relationship between the federal and state governments and even local public health departments is going to be something that we should expect to see more of moving forward under this administration.
Well, Chip Davis, President and CEO of the Healthcare Distribution Alliance, I really wanted you in this program. I wanted to be able to add other dimension to this discussion of what's this vast ecosystem that we need to have for this challenge of our time. So thank you so much for supporting today's program, but more importantly for being in it, because I wanted to have this talk with you.
Thanks, Steve. Always good to be with you.